Hello, Mr. Eddie.
Hello, Miss Carla.
How are you doing today?
I am excellent. I hope you are.
I am.
Good.
Well, we are with the boys and girls again.
Hey,
this
guys.
week. It's good to be with you guys.
Absolutely.
Last week we talked about Gideon. We had a really fun lesson. We talked about how Gideon defeated the Midianites.
Yes, we did.
And Mr. Eddie did some great sound effects. We appreciate him doing that. Today we're going to talk about someone else who was able to overcome and defeat someone because God was with him.
Awesome. I think I know who it is.
Who do you think, Mr. Eddie?
David.
You're right. That's exactly who we're going to talk about. So our story kind of starts with the Israelites. They're going into battle against the Philistines, and they're near Bethlehem on the Philistine border, and the Philistines are on one mountain, and the Israelites are on another mountain, and guess what's in between them?
A valley.
A valley. That's right. A valley's in between them. So, as they're getting ready to go into battle, tell us who you think comes out and taunts the children of Israel.
I believe it was a man named Goliath.
Exactly. And was he just any man?
No. Scripture says that Goliath was 6 cubits and 1 span tall. How tall is that, Miss Carla?
Well, it's a little bit taller than you or me.
I think it's about as tall as you on top of me.
Exactly. We're looking at over 9 feet tall.
Absolutely.
We don't know any people right now that are 9 feet tall. That is huge.
Yeah, I don't want to have to fight him.
I don't either. So when he comes out to fight against the children of Israel, do you know what he said to them?
He said, send one of yours over to fight me. And if you win, I'll be your slave, your servant. He said, but if I win, you'll be my servant.
Do you think Goliath was really scared that one of the Israelites was going to win against him?
No.
I think he was pretty confident. In fact, you know, one of the things he says, I defy the Israelites. I defy them, which means I challenge them, totally mock them, and don't expect them to win.
And if I remember correctly, he defied their God.
He did. That's exactly what he did. Well, you know, this happened like 40 days, morning and night, he would come out.
Miss Carla, that would be like me picking on you constantly.
It sure would. I would not like that. I would be upset.
You don't want Miss Carla upset.
That's right. That's right. Not only would I be upset, but if you were 9 feet tall, I would be scared.
I think my knees would be knocking.
That's right. And that's exactly what happened to the Israelites. Their knees were knocking. They were scared. They didn't know what to do. But while all this was happening, there was another man off somewhere, and his name was Jesse.
Yes.
And he had, do you know how many sons he had?
Jesse had 8 sons.
That's exactly right. He had 8 sons. Some of his sons were in battle with the Israelites. They were fighting with the Israelites and King Saul. Do you know how many of those
It was
there were?
his 3 oldest sons.
His 3 oldest sons, exactly. Well, while they were out there fighting and everything, they had a young brother, the youngest of all 8 of them, and he was out taking care of the sheep. So he's out taking care of the sheep, and his dad calls him in, hey, David, come on. Jesse was getting kind of old, and he told David, he said, I want you to go check on your brothers and see how they're doing. And he gave them something to take to them. You remember what that was?
He gave them roasted grains.
That's right.
Bread. And he gave some cheese for their commander.
That's right. For the man in charge, they said, hey, take some cheese too. He said, take all this stuff and go and find out how your brothers are doing. David takes off to find out how his brothers are doing. And when he gets there, he gives all of his supplies to the person that was in charge of supplies. And he runs down because the Israelites and the Philistines have faced off again for battle. So he runs down to see what's happening. And when he gets there, he to check on his brothers. He's talking to them and everything. What happens while he's down there?
He hears a big, bad, loud man by the name of Goliath defying the army of Israel.
That's exactly right. He heard Goliath come out, and Goliath is saying the same things that he said the whole time. Send one of your men over. If he wins, we'll be your slaves. But if I win, you guys are going to be my slaves. I defy the God of Israel.
That wasn't nice.
It wasn't nice. And David wasn't real happy about that.
No, he wasn't.
And so he's talking, and they're talking and they're hearing all this. Some of the guys are talking off in the background, and he hears them. And they're talking about what King Saul said he would do for the man who went out and killed Goliath.
Yep, it was going to be a nice reward.
It sure was, and there's nothing better than a nice reward.
That's right. And he was going to get a bride.
He was going to get a bride.
And wouldn't have to pay taxes.
And wouldn't have to pay taxes, and he was going to get great riches.
That's right.
That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff.
And so he's asking that, and you know what? His brother, his oldest brother, hears him asking.
He does, and he gets jealous.
He was jealous.
And angry.
I know, angry. He was upset at him.
He was, and he said, "Why aren't you home watching those sheep?"
That's right. Why aren't you home? I know how proud you are.
Exactly.
You just wanted to come down here and see the battle.
That's what he said.
And you should be down there taking care of the sheep. And David's like, what have I done now?
I know. Hey, can't I even talk?
I just asked the question. Not only did his brother hear, but someone else heard. King Saul heard the question.
He heard that David said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine talking about my God like that?"
Exactly. And so King Saul sent someone. He said, hey, go get that fella and bring him to me. I want to hear what he's got to say.
So David obeyed, and he went.
When he got there, King Saul said, hey, what are you talking about? What's going on? And David says, hey, don't worry about that Philistine. I'll fight him. I'll take care of him.
That's right.
And King Saul turned around and said,
"You're just a boy.
That's ridiculous. You're so small. You're just a young boy.
And this guy's been fighting since he was a boy.
And he's a giant.
And now he's a giant, a big giant.
So how are you going to fight against him?"
He said, "My God will deliver him and defeat him."
That's right. He will deliver us and he will defeat him. And you know what David was really saying is, God with me is greater than this giant.
That's exactly right.
And then he goes on to tell King Saul a story. He says, you know what? I take care of my dad's sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking care of them one day, and a lion and a bear came, and they took one of the sheep. He said, you know what I did?
What did he do?
I went after him. And he said, and I got my sheep back.
And what did the lion think about that? And what did the bear think about that?
He said, the lion and the bear, they turned on me.
And what did he do?
He said, I tore him to shreds with my hands.
Woo, go David, go David.
Woo! Go David. He said, hey, I am not afraid because God goes with me. And if God is with me, then I'm not afraid of this Philistine. Who is he to take care of, try to take us out? King Saul says, which is the smartest thing he's probably ever said, he said, go and God be with you.
That's right.
Now
God be with you.
That's right.
But what did King Saul try to give David?
He said, well, if you're going to go into battle with him, and he's way bigger than you are, then I need to suit you up in all of my armor. So he put on all of his battle clothes, big old helmet, gave him a big old sword to carry. And what did David say?
He tried to walk around in it, and he couldn't. He wasn't used to that.
Yeah, and it's probably way too big.
He said, I can't go to battle like this. So he took it off.
You ever seen little babies and they'll try on their mom or dad's shoes and they're kind of stumbling around in them?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just too big. They don't fit.
That's right.
You know, and so that's what David said. I got to take this off. I can't go with this.
So what did he take with him?
Well, he goes down to a stream. This is very interesting. He goes down to a stream and he finds 5 smooth stones.
Mm-hmm.
Picks them up, puts them in his pouch, and takes off. He's got his slingshot with him, got his staff,
Got a staff.
and got his rocks. And he heads out to the valley where the big Philistine giant Goliath is standing.
And if I remember correctly, Goliath and his armor bearer started towards David.
That's right. What's an armor bearer?
He was a guy that was carrying his shield.
That's right. Right in front of him, he's carrying a shield to protect Goliath, right?
Yeah.
So, big old man in front of him carrying a shield to protect Goliath, big old guy, and out steps David.
With a staff. And what did Goliath say to him?
What am I, a dog, that you come at me with a stick, with sticks?
That's right. Here's my stick. But that's not what David was depending on, was it?
No, he wasn't depending on his stick. He had something a whole lot bigger, a whole lot greater he was depending on.
And what was that?
That was God. He knew that God was with him, that he was a child of God. The Israelites were the children of God, and he knew that. And he knew that Goliath was standing against and defying, trying to defy God. And he knew that God would be with him. And so David looked at him and he said, you know what? You come at me with spear and javelin and swords. He said, but I come at you in the name of the Lord our God.
That's a mighty name.
That is a mighty name. That is a mighty name. And so David just took off running toward Goliath. He's headed that way. And he takes a stone out of his pouch, puts it in a slingshot, pulls it back, slings it, and lets it fly.
And where does it land?
Boing! Right in the forehead of Goliath.
And it sank in.
It did. It sunk right into his forehead. And you know what happened to the big bad giant?
He came on tumbling down.
Tumbling down.
Face forward into the ground.
Face forward into the ground. And so here's David, and he's defeated this big, huge giant. And you know, before, one of the little things I forgot to say is when he asked David, what are you doing? What am I, a dog? You're coming at me with sticks? He said, I'm going to feed your body to the birds of the air and to the wild animals running here.
Mm-hmm. And what did David tell him?
David told him, what did he tell him?
David said, you come, and he said, you come at me with a sword and a javelin, and I come at you with the mighty God.
That's right. That's
who will
right.
deliver you into my hands.
Yes.
And today, the birds of the air
Yep.
will feast upon your carcass, and all of the Philistines.
That's right.
And the wild animals will feast
That's
upon
right.
you and all of the Philistines in this day, because you are delivered into my hands by the living God of Israel. And all the world will know that there is a living God in Israel.
That's exactly what he said. And you know what? After he threw that slingshot, down comes Goliath. David went right over there, took Goliath's own sword, cut Goliath's head off, and all of a sudden, the Philistines look and they're like, oh my goodness. Our hero has been defeated by this boy. He's been defeated. So they took off running. They're like, we're out of here. So they took off running.
That's wisdom.
That was wisdom on their part. But you know what? They couldn't outrun God, and they couldn't outrun the Israelites.
That's right. And they chased them.
And they chased them, and they defeated them. And so David brought down the giant with a stone and a slingshot.
Because of the faith of David, a young boy, God used that faithfulness.
That's right.
And defeated the army of the Philistines and Goliath, the giant of a man.
That's right. And you know what that tells me? He came tumbling down. You know what that tells me? It doesn't matter what we're facing in life. no matter how big it seems or how small we seem, when we put our trust and our faith in God, then we are able to overcome, and we can have confidence that God is with us and that we are not going to be defeated. We can stand strong just like David stood strong. And we don't necessarily face giants today, although some of you kids may, because there may be bullies that seem like giants at your school or at the playground, parks, or whatever. But you know what? God is bigger on the inside of us. Our memory verse for today is, greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world.
That's right.
And you know what? God is bigger on the inside of us than anything that we face in this world. So we can trust and we can depend on God and know that He's there with us, and we don't have to fear. And what seems impossible, we've been talking a lot about that the last few weeks. What seems impossible is possible with God.
It's possible with God, because greater is He that is in me
than he that is in the world. Exactly.
Another verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yes, Christ strengthens us to do even things that we don't want to do sometimes, like read our Bible or pray. Sometimes when we don't feel like doing that, God strengthens us and enables us to do those things. When we lean into Him and we say, God, I'm asking for your help, then we know that He's going to help us.
Absolutely.
So I am glad to be here to share this message with you today, Mr. Eddie, because you know what? In the world today, there's a lot of things that seem big to people. There's the coronavirus, and some people are running afraid because of that. You know, there are people that are dealing with sickness, other sicknesses. There are people that are dealing with some financial needs, you know, because money's not, maybe people are having problems because they don't have jobs. Kids are at home now, and they're not in school, and maybe they're doing school online, and it's harder for them because they don't have a teacher to ask questions. You know, so there's lots of things that we are facing now that are different. You know, even in churches, we're on church online instead of in the building with you guys.
I know. I don't see heads out here.
I know. We're looking at a phone that's recording us and not at all of you guys, which we would rather be doing.
We'd rather be seeing you guys.
That's right. But you know what? God is with us.
That's right.
And greater is He in us than he that is in the world.
So we can do all things. We can do this lesson in front of a
camera. That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And you can do whatever you need to do. If it's obey your parents, if it's do schoolwork online, if it is, no matter what the challenge you may be facing. You know, you may have grandparents that you can't be with right now. Whatever the challenge, you can do it because Christ lives in you. And greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world.
Amen.
Amen.
Good deal.
All right, you guys hang tight and know that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
And we will see you here soon.
Yes, and we miss you and
Yes,
look forward
we
to
do.
seeing you.
Yes, we do.